How I came to know Swami is um, interesting, I guess, in a way, in that I owe my debt and gratitude to my biggest mamu, my mother's eldest brother, in that regard. He came to follow Swami way before us. And when I was a little boy, he had given my mom a picture of Swami that was hung in our house. And I remember that as a child, I don't know for what reason, I would find myself standing in front of that picture of Swami, curious about who this person was because I had not a clue, did not know anything about him, but I could not take my eyes off him.
Over the years, can you kindly share with us two of your most memorable experiences that you would have had with our mother's side?
Okay. The greatest experience I had with him was on my first trip to Prashanti. Now, we've always heard that you are never called to Prashanti unless Swami himself has called you, right? So to even get there on the first was also another blessing. And I saw his call in it as well. We were actually doing blood donation save at Rio Claricai Center. And I was sitting with Dr. and Mrs. Rampal and a couple of other people. And Mrs. Rampal, who is one of my greatest mentors, by the way, just like that, she said, well, we're going to Prashanti in August, in July. Why don't you come with us? And I was like, whoa, where did this come from? Right? So I seized the opportunity. I said, okay, this is it. I know I have to go. I have to go. So I got on a plane with them in July 2002, and we went to Prashanti. So on that plane trip, I took a book with me to read called My Life is My Message by Charlene Leslie Chaden. And I was totally engrossed in that book while I was going. And somewhere in the book, she had written that when we get to Prashanti, it's all fine until you begin to get the fever. What is that fever? The I want an interview fever. And I tell myself, no. I am not going there for that. I don't need an interview with Swami. I just need to see him. I am not going to get into that. So when we got to Prashanti, we met up with some other Trinidadian devotees. Dr. Rajak was there together with his wife, and Uncle Lal Paladi was also there, and we all became part of a group. And so we would sit together in Darshan in the Kowant Hall. But for some reason, around the third week that I was there, we were there for about 4 weeks, I think, 4 or 6 weeks. I got the fever. I got the fever bad because I was seeing that everyone else around me was actually reaching out, and Swami was taking their letters, he was talking to them. And apart from that, they were getting front row darshans. And you all know how for those of us who have been to Prashanti, how we crave that front line, right? I began to crave the front line, and for some strange reason, that entire time, I could only get second line and third line. I would never get the first line. And I remember, I think it was Uncle Al Paladi saying, you need to make the effort towards Swami if you expect him to come toward you. It made sense to me at the time. And although I hadn't planned to, I wrote a letter to Swami asking for his darshan and his blessings and whatnot. And I used to go walk with that to the Kulwantol every morning, together with letters that I had brought with me from other members of the Rukarasai Center. And we got to the last week of the visit, and it was just a mere few days before we had to go home. And still, I would not get this frontline darshan the way that I wanted. And so one day we were, after darshan, we were walking back to our rooms in, I think it was N6 at that time, for those of you who know. And we got to the square where the coconuts are being sold behind the roundhouse. I think you all would know that very familiar place. At the time, it was not the beautiful square it was now. It was more or less sand, and there was some rocky benches and whatnot that you could sit on. And as we were walking up, I spoke to my friend as we were going, and I said, why? Why is Swami not paying attention to me? What is wrong? Is it that I do not love Swami enough? And that is why he's not coming. And my friend, I think he just replied, that may be it. As soon as I heard those words, sister, I began to cry. I threw myself on one of the benches there on the square, and I literally howled. I howled. I cried. I could not stop crying. Right? I had, we had all made friends with a Guyanese family. Sister Yurita Ramjiawan and her brother Jared and their parents. And they passed us and they saw me crying and they stopped, of course. And, they were trying to comfort me and find out from me what was wrong. Why am I crying? Why am I? And every time I opened my mouth, I could not do anything but cry more. So they just took me up and they took me to their room and they made tea for me. And I cried for an entire half a day. I kid you not, I cried. Just because I thought I did not love Swami. The second to last day before we had to come home, I got front row darshan. Wow. That was the first wow. Front row. The biggest wow after that is when Swami came out for darshan. And at that point in time, Swami was not yet in his wheelchair, so he was walking. Swami walked and came straight up to me. And every time I recount this, the hair stands on my head. And Swami walked straight up to me and stopped and just stood there for what seemed to me like an eternity. I was there. I was holding my letters in my hand like this, the letters from the center together with the one I had written. I did not even reach out and offer it to Swami. I just looked up into his face. And to me, I was lost in infinity. I couldn't go anywhere else. I was fixed where I was. Swami himself looked down, reached down, and took the letters from my hand. And he stood there for another 2 or 3 minutes, I think. Well, to me, it seemed like that. And then he turned and he walked towards the mandir. Sister, as soon as he left me, I literally thought I was going to have a heart attack because I felt my heart just literally expand to the point where my chest was hurting, and I grabbed my chest because of the joy and I can't even begin to describe the feelings that was going on at that point in time, but I know that my chest began to hurt. I think literally my heart chakra had expanded 3 times that size, its size that day. Kind of like Dr. Seuss and the Grinch. But that was the best experience I had with Swami himself. Now, I've never had an interview to say that I've actually been into the interview room and had that personal contact with him. But that, for me, was my contact. The second best experience I had was being part of the International Youth Choir in 2007 when you and I and Sister Asha and the others attended the World Conference, and we were able to sit in the hall and offer songs of love to Swami. All I remember after getting up from that darshan where we had offered, where Swami himself had actually stood up, looked at all of us and gave us his most beautiful smile and said, very happy, very happy. I remember just going into a trance, into a daze. I walked out of the hall. I was in tears and I did not want to speak to anyone for that entire evening. I was just so maxed out on the bliss that I remained like that for quite a while. Those were two of my best experiences with Swami.
I don't know if you recall, Brother, when Swami actually said in English, and I remember the next day, they will have his divine messages printed, and we all ran for it because Swami said in English, I love you. I love you all. And I think, we just wanted to get a copy of that message. And very disappointingly, it was not those few words, I love you, was not in that message. It was only those of us who were present in that hall. It was really an amazing, amazing time.
It was when he said that to us that he was very happy. I actually, he had stood up. He had stood up in the hall, and at this particular moment, someone snapped this picture. That was when he said to us he was very happy, and this is what I call my best treasure in life.
That would have been on Guru Purnima day
Yes,
around that time, yes.
yes.
But Derek, because you mentioned that conference, which is very important, that Third World Youth Conference, is there anything or any message in particular that really struck or stuck with you that you would like to share that you took away from that? Not just the experience of being there in Swami's physical contact and that, the whole experience of the conference, but a key message to the youth, especially. I mean, there were many, but is there any one in particular that really hit home for you that you would like to share?
I hope I'm not confusing my visits right now, but there was a particular incident where Swami was in the hall and he was speaking to us, and he began to cry. And at that point in time, he was crying because he said, and I took this to heart then, no one is listening to me. And he went on to speak about the fact that he would prefer a teaspoon of cow's milk to a bucket full of donkey's milk. And I remember then that the avatar was actually saying to us, listen to me, listen to my message. I am here for you. Right. And I think that was one of the biggest messages that I took away from Prashanti at that point in time. Swami means love, first and foremost. He means love. Swami is love. Love is Swami. And Swami has, as I realized later on, I guess as you get older, you get a little more wisdom. Swami has never been away from me. I may have been away from Swami at one level, but Swami has never been away from me. So one of the biggest things since beginning to follow Swami, and this is another lesson that I took away from that first visit, not the World Youth Conference. After my first visit to Swami, I'll share this with you. I came back home. Well, of course, that was 2002. In 2003, it was coming to Easter. And from ever since, I'd always loved looking at my biblical shows around Easter time. And there was a show going on about the crucifixion of Jesus. And all of a sudden, it dawned on me. Having experienced the divinity and the love in 2002, it dawned on me. This is what it meant to actually give up your divine son to die for us. This is what divine love is. And I guess I'm a crier at heart, sister, because I cried again that day looking at the message, at the Easter message, and thinking, this is love. And another part of that is that Swami has always exhorted to us that I am divine, yes, but you are also divine. The thing is that we are yet to realize it, and that's part of our mission. And so, since um, coming to him and beginning to learn his message, I have been trying to practice seeing Swami in everyone and everything. Right. And that is one of the biggest influences in my life, actually, that I should see Swami in all of creation, animate and inanimate. And believe it or not, since then, and in taking that message to heart, life is different. It's definitely different because where pre-Swami, maybe I might get upset with people and lash out, want to hurt people in anger and that sort of thing and whatnot. Now, before anything like that happens, I would actually think to myself, no, 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 no. I need to understand where this person is coming from, why they're behaving the way they're behaving. But I also need to remember that they are Swami as well. How can I hurt myself? If I am Swami and they are Swami, how can I hurt myself? Right? So, in that regard, Swami has been influencing me to continue the search for the divinity that I am, for understanding the divinity that I am. As the book said, my life is my message. As Swami said it, our lives are his message. So how can we be any different from what he stood for and for what he is?
Well, that is actually going on to the, thank you for sharing. The second part of that question is how has practicing the teachings of Satya Sai Baba impacted and transformed your life? And just from what you said, and I'm very proud of you because many people, not being judgmental, but many people are in or have been in the Sai fold, but yet you can see that there really hasn't been any sort of transformation in the way they behave and the way they live. And this is a real key point. We as devotees of the avatar of the age, we must not just be able to regurgitate what he says, but we must be able to practice daily his teachings. And self-audit is a really big part of this so that we can know what aspects of ourselves that we must improve on or work with as embodiments of love and light, as reflections of life. So is there anything else you would like to share on that question? How has practicing Swami's teachings impacted and transformed your life?
Well, actually, I think I said the biggest chunk of it in that we need to practice the message. We need to be love, and we need to be love in action. In my job as a teacher, I offer my actions as a teacher to Swami. My everyday life is also a reflection of Swami. So whatever I do is for him in his honor. And the children that I teach, that is my savor to him. That is the way I see it. It's not just a job where you might consider I'm just doing it for a salary, as exorbitant as it might be, but my children are my offering to Swami in that I know that I'm helping to develop the youth of the nation. All right. So when I'm teaching, I also try to put in the human values into the teaching as well. Right. So like just today, I was teaching my Form 4s and I was speaking about being a sustainable farmer because I teach agriculture. And I was saying to them, love for Mother Earth. We must be able to preserve what is there for us, what has been offered to us, not just for ourselves, but for our descendants and so on. So I always try to put the human values into the teaching as I go along. Love. Practice love. Let go of the ego self and bring in the love. See Swami in everyone. It's actually not as hard to do as some might think it is. And once you begin to do it, it actually gets very easy to the point where it doesn't matter to you whether someone is attempting to hurt you or not. All right, because you are so in this bubble of love that those things don't matter. Life becomes easier when we can practice love. Life becomes easier when you can take Swami off the altar and bring him into everyday life.